Joining me now to discuss the breaking news about Michael Flynn, all the latest in the investigation, House Intelligence Committee member Eric Swalwell, Democratic congressman from California. Good to have you here, Congressman.
Nice to be here, Chris.
Your reaction to the Flynn news?
Well, innocent people don't ask for immunity, but that's not something that I'm familiar with in our investigation. But you know, if he has something to say and he's not worried about what he did, he should just come forward and testify in a public setting.
Well, but innocent people can ask for immunity, right? You're worried about perjury, or you're worried about the ways in which things you say could be used against you later on. I mean, it's not entirely incriminating. I know you're a former prosecutor.
Yeah. And we shouldn't seek perjury charges against people who, you know, innocently, you know, kind of screw up a timeline, right, or what happened. You know, it's also an innocent thing to just kind of forget But we don't. What we have here is a pattern of deceit with Michael Flynn. It's not forgetfulness. And what really concerns me is when you look at the number of individuals involved. You know, you can take the cunning, and you have Paul Manafort, who was, you know, financial transactions with the Russians, and then you have people. It's questionable whether they were unwitting participants helping Russia. Michael Flynn was the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. He knew exactly what Russia's capabilities were and that they used financial entanglements to influence people. So to be paid by RT, Russia Today, that to me is very powerful evidence that he had a financial entanglement with a broadcasting service connected to Russia's intelligence service.
I want to talk about your chair, Devin Nunes. So tell me if you think this is, have you come to the conclusion that I have and everyone else, which is that the president fired off these tweets and essentially someone in the White House said we need to reverse engineer some plausible substance for this, accessed highly classified information and brought in Devin Nunes to show it to him to justify the tweets?
That's what it looks like. And the president, if you remember, also invited the House Intelligence Committee to investigate his claims. And so he asked us to make him a part of the investigation. Of course, Democrats and Republicans agreed. So at that point, for Chairman Nunes, that should have been a bright line that he should not have crossed to go to the White House.
I want to play this clip of the president himself seeming to signal that there would be some information coming out. Take a listen.
Don't forget, when I say wiretap, those words were in quotes. That really covers, because wiretapping is pretty old-fashioned stuff, but that really covers surveillance and many other things. And nobody ever talks about the fact that it was in quotes, but that's a very important thing. But wiretap covers a lot of different things. I think you're going to find some very interesting items coming to the forefront over the next 2 weeks.
Do you think the president ordered officials in his White House to go find information to substantiate his claim?
Don't know yet. We need to find out, but that has a ring of familiarity. Roger Stone, right? He also intimated that John Podesta was about to spend his time in the barrel. That was long before anyone knew what he was talking about. Weeks later, Guccifer 2.0 uses Russian-hacked emails to put out John Podesta's emails. This is a pattern, Chris.
Can Nunes last as chair? I mean, he's not going to be the chair of your committee for long.
He shouldn't last as the leader of this investigation. I mean, he has gone over to the White House after an open hearing, after the president invited our committee to investigate him, and he canceled the public hearing. And I think that might have been something that's forgotten this week. We had a public hearing scheduled with Sally Yates, John Brennan, and James Clapper, and the continued progress that we're supposed to show is not happening. So we've lost independence, credibility, and progress. He should step aside so we can reclaim that.
Quickly, is it an appropriate thing to do for counsel in the NSC or in the White House counsel's office or a staffer in the NSC to access this kind of information and give it to the chair of the committee to sort of justify a presidential tweet?
Only if you're sharing it with both parties.
All right, Congressman Eric Swalwell, member of the House Intelligence Committee. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.